What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? This is Joey Womack, founder, CEO of Goodie Nation, and you're in for an absolute treat. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Prequel, origin stories and inflection points. And you have the treat today. You have the privilege today of hearing some dope founders, some awesome founders that are going to tell some awesome stories. These are the recent recipients of Google for Startups Black Founders Fund 3. Google for Startup Black Founders Fund 3 is the last episode in the series. And it's going to be awesome. So at Goodie Nation, we believe that relationships matter the most in business, right? When a founder does not have connections to influential people in business, particularly in tech, it makes it difficult for them to get access to capital. It makes it difficult for them to get access to customers, to talent for people to hire. It also makes it difficult for them to get access to experienced entrepreneurs that can give them advice, help them on their journey, and things of that nature, which all leads to higher levels of stress for these entrepreneurs and reduces the likelihood of them being successful. We call the lack of connection between founders and people that are influential in business the relationship gap. And we found that diverse founders, so think like Black, Latinx, and women, and also social entrepreneurs from all backgrounds, typically experience larger relationship gaps than their counterparts, right? And so at Goodie Nation, we designed a series of things to kind of address that gap. And we believe that this particular podcast series, Prequel, is part of the solution. Why? Because we think that as these founders tell their stories today, you'll see a little bit of yourself in them, right? You'll see a little bit of yourself in them. And as you listen to their stories, you'll start to figure out a way to support them. You'll start to develop a relationship and figure out a few ways to support. We'll get into that at the end of the episode. But enough from me. Let's hear from these awesome entrepreneurs. So right now we're about to just go through some quick introductions before we get into the meat of their stories. So what's going to hear now? Their name, name of their company, 1-2 sentence description, and then where they're based out of. I'm going to kick it to Candice first for a quick intro.
Hi, everyone. I'm Candice Speicher, co-founder of Buoy Pricing. Buoy automatically prices vacation rentals for entrepreneurs who have vacation homes. And we are based in Sacramento, my husband and I, but we have co-founded our company in Chicago.
Awesome. Let's go down to Mita.
Hey everyone, I'm Mita Carriman. I'm the founder and CEO of Adventurely. Adventurely connects digital nomads to each other and their new local communities via a travel club and a meetup app, and with thoughtfulness around sustainability and local impact.
Awesome. Let's go over to Layo.
Hi everyone, my name is Layo George. I am the founder of Wolomi. Wolomi is a companion app made for women of color to help us own our pregnancy journey, find joy, and get better outcomes. I am based out of our Florida Lakeland office, but we are founded out of DC.
Awesome. Let's go over to Courtney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney Culmer, founder of Uplevel Communications, a marketplace that connects companies in need of marketing or communication support with experienced freelancers and small agencies. While I am a proud Houston Texan, I call Atlanta home right now, which is also where Uplevel is based.
Awesome. And finally, Yinka.
Thank you for having us. My name is Yinka. I'm the founder of Haven RX. What we are is a white label digital pharmacy licensed in all 50 states to deliver medication to patients' homes. We provide a full stack solution to digital health companies to offer pharmacy services to their patients at scale. We are based out of Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So let's get right into these stories. Let's hear about how these awesome founders got to where they are today. First, I want to kick it back to Candice for her story. How'd you get here?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I do love being an entrepreneur, but I didn't know I would end up here. I from DC, and I was born and raised on the East Coast. I started in graphic design, and I really had an incredible mentor who told me I could kind of do anything. And so I went to George Mason University. I graduated from there, and I decided to move to Los Angeles to pursue design. And I worked. I feel blessed because I was able to work for places like Beats by Dre, and I was able to work for TED Talks and make like incredible designs all over. But I didn't really work for myself yet. And my entrepreneurship journey honestly started when I met my husband and my co-founder, Timmy. He and I met, funny enough, on Tinder, and we were in Los Angeles, and he actually he was in the vacation rental space, so he was doing that for work while I was still designing. I was freelance designing. And when we met, he had a lot of clients, and I don't know, something about him made sense. I mean, I know when you date a bunch of people, like you figure out what works. He and I worked. And so when we started like living together and just like forming life stuff together, I realized I could help him with work stuff too. And it felt pretty natural. It also felt pretty quick to get into work stuff while only dating, but it worked out. So he was making he was making a lot of reports for clients in the Airbnb space, and a lot of these people had a lot of confusion with like where they should price their units. Since I worked at a lot of big companies for design, I understood how to build systems, and I started designing what I thought would be a better UI UX for this whole industry. We started as we were going and showing this to people and his clients especially, they started telling us it could be real. So we started building it, and I ended up hiring our dev team, and then honestly, I ended up wearing the co-founder hat because, I mean, as Joey talks about, people who are starting out, you don't always have the connections. We didn't have connections, and I had a lot of people at that time telling us, we needed more money, more to get it done. And I had people telling me I couldn't design the UI UX for it because I hadn't done something like that in the past. I'm the type that likes to fight against people telling me no. So I did. I was able to design our interface and brand. I felt really proud of getting that done, but I went back to my college roots and got my mentor to help me. I got friends to help me. Honestly, I pulled in the gambit of help to be able to make this app. And I'm proud that Timmy and I were able to make it. We built Buoy because we wanted to make pricing vacation rentals easier for people who are starting out in that industry. People like my mom who are like figuring out vacation rentals, and I wanted to make it like accessible. I wanted to make it for people of color, so I made sure I put Black people in the branding, and that attracted our first few users who are people of color. And I don't know, this building tech with my husband. We did eventually get married. So yeah, we got married after we started building this together. But we realized like we had something good and we needed to get into a community to make it bigger. We went through Techstars Chicago last year. He's from Chicago, and that's why we built it in Chicago, because there's so much camaraderie and togetherness, and we didn't have any network. So we needed to start somewhere friendly. So we started in Chicago. Techstars was incredible. We learned a ton. We learned how to speak the language. And then I started learning the legal stuff. I started learning more fundraising stuff. I started wearing more hats as my husband like continued to refine the tech and make it good for our customers. We were accepted into Founders Academy, Google Founders Academy spring. And honestly, we learned sales, something we had no clue about before then. And that made me feel confident enough to even think about like, all right, maybe I should be really pitching. Maybe I should really learn how to do this. Maybe I should really focus on what entrepreneurship means and what I, as a designer first, want it to be. I like designing things, so it's kind of hard to put myself in front of the camera. But I really enjoyed that experience with Google. And then we were able to apply to the Black Founders Fund. And honestly, getting to Goodie has been everything, y'all. This community is insane. I feel like we actually can. And my story isn't done yet, but I know that we are able to get somewhere amazing because of the help. So I'm just so grateful, and I'm grateful to be here.
So a few things. One, I met my wife on Bumble. Two, a few episodes ago, there's another Black Founders Fund 3 recipient that met his wife on Bumble. I'm sorry, on Tinder. On Tinder. Here's the funny part. He forgot the name of the app. So during the episode, he's like, "Oh, what's the name of the app again? It starts with a T. It starts with a T." I said, "Hey, brother, listen, you're gonna be in trouble with this episode when she sees this, right?" So awesome stuff. A lot of connection points. I did a TEDx talk. I mean, I think people in LA and things of that nature. Lots of connection points in the Goodie Nation community. Okay, so if people want to do business with you, how do they get in contact with you or the company?
Yeah, they can find us at buoy.us. They can email me at Candice@buoy.us, and also find us on Instagram and Twitter, same handle.
Awesome. Cool. Good stuff. Now let's kick it over to Mita. Mita, what's your origin story?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Adventurely's origin story specifically starts on October 1st, 2017, specifically that day, with a one-way ticket that I booked from my hometown of New York City to Medellin, Colombia. And this one-way ticket ultimately led me to changing my life, changing my career, and finding my personal life's mission. It was on that day that I had decided with this one-way plane ticket, after really thinking things through, that I was going to try out the digital nomad life, aka being somebody who slow travels while working around the world remotely. I had started to see a few people I knew in my network live this digital nomad lifestyle by literally bringing their laptop to incredible destinations around the world and being able to rent a long-term stay easily through providers like Airbnb and Booking.com. And through this lifestyle, they were getting an insatiable amount of adventure and wonderment infused into their lives by working remotely and traveling. And that was something that I really needed. At that time, when I booked that one-way ticket in October of 2017, I was already entrepreneurial as a freelance attorney with my own IP law practice. I was already mostly working from home in New York City or working from local cafes or co-working spaces. So it really wasn't that much of a stretch for me to just take my laptop and work from a cafe or a co-work space on the other side of the world if I wanted to. It was just a matter of mustering up the decision to finally did it. And I did that. And I was having this problem at the time of finding a work-life balance as an entrepreneur. And I came to this personal conclusion that I didn't necessarily believe in a work-life balance so much as I started to believe in a work-life integration. And I saw this digital nomad lifestyle as being able to travel, get some adventure, and see the world, and get work done as being my approach to work-life integration. So with this ticket to Medellin, Colombia, I thought that I was going to just spend a month there and maybe meander around to Mexico for a month and make my way back to New York City, but that was not the case at all. That trip has been going on for the past 5 years full time. I kept extending my trip to a new month, a new destination to work remotely. Um, I just loved the lifestyle. And what I found the most surprising from the experience was that working remotely while traveling actually ended up being a productivity hack for me because I was so motivated to hunker down in my Airbnb or my long-term stay during the week, pounding away at my laptop so that I can have the weekend to go out and explore. And it dawned on me that this was just a lifestyle that I was just going to engage in indefinitely. And to this day, I've been on this journey across 15 countries, 51 Airbnbs, and over 100 nights in hotels booked. So how did this fall into me launching a business around this lifestyle with Adventurely and getting into the program? Well, what happened was when I hit the 1 year mark of becoming a digital nomad in October of 2018, I really took inventory of how I was feeling and what I thought about this lifestyle. And it really dawned on me that with an insurmountable amount of personal conviction that this lifestyle, as far as I was seeing it, was going to become a mainstream way of life. I saw the numbers of freelancers in the US starting to go up and worldwide. I was seeing the number of co-work offices around the world going up and products like Airbnb with their inventory going up. I was starting to see some companies starting to have a work from home or a flexibility hybrid model even back then. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to launch this product. And a few months after that, I applied to the Backstage Capital Accelerator. And eventually with this idea to create a community app for digital nomads to connect to community, because what's different from nomads as compared to travelers, that digital nomads are actually temporarily living in a community. So to live in a community, you need to meet people. You need to meet fellow nomads who are similarly situated as you. You need to meet fellow community locals as well. And I was like, well, can we create community as a service? And that's been our mission ever since. So we're creating that primarily through a meetup app. And we're also creating services through a product that we called Welcome Meetups, which is our spin on the traditional work, remote, and travel retreat, where we're going to be organizing you with other remote workers in town for a series of experiences that blend work, adventure, and play. Now, 6 months after we got out of the Backstage Capital Accelerator, there is this thing called COVID that happened. And of course, it was very scary and completely changed the travel industry, but it also made the entire world go remote. And that instance is what actually poured gasoline onto this digital nomad market. There's now 50 million digital nomads worldwide. There are 15 million alone in the United States. And now you have over 44 countries around the world who have digital nomad visas. And I'm just really fired up about our mission to keep building. I am so excited to be in the program with Google BFF and with Goodie Nation. And we're just going to continue to keep growing. And that's our story.
Awesome. I have a friend from college at Florida A&M University, by the way. You'll probably hear that later. Who's been traveling, been doing the digital nomad life for a few years, and she's been awesome. So good stuff. I love it. How can people get in contact with you if they want to do business?
Sure. My DMs are open on Twitter, so I'm at Mita Carriman, or you can go to adventurely.app and hit us up via the contact section.
There it is. Cool. Gonna kick it over to Layo for her origin story. How'd you get here, man?
Thank you for having me. So my story really started when I was pregnant. The one constant thing that was on my mind is I do not want to die. And as a nurse, my background, I was a registered nurse, and I have my background in maternal health. So I was labor and delivery, women's health nurse. And I felt like I've seen a lot. And I've seen how we were treated, how sometimes healthcare can be different depending on the population and where you are, and how we're just not meeting the needs that we need to meet as in the maternal health world. So when I was pregnant, I really felt like, okay, if I just not die, then I've made it. And so, which is kind of sad. It's a sad way to think about things, but that's where my mind was. And honestly, even when I had my first doula appointment, it was just a crying fest where I was just like crying because I was so that scared. Even though I was a nurse, you would think like I would know everything, and I would feel like I knew everything and I was competent to go through and navigate the healthcare system. So the other part of it was that I was pregnant and going to grad school. So the story behind the grad school was that I felt that I went to grad school at Georgetown to get my master's in healthcare administration. I felt that the population was changing, and there's a lot of Black and brown folks now that are getting healthcare, and the equity, we keep getting bad outcomes, right? And to me, it seems as if the people calling the shots and making the decisions did not really look like us, and they didn't really understand what we're going through. So it felt like that is really the start to actually have better outcomes for people who look like me. So that's how I started on my grad school journey. But then when I got to grad school, so I was very focused on developing a different model for Black and brown moms to have babies. What can we really do to have a better outcome for us? I started developing my thesis was around that. And I was so obsessed with it in a lazy way. Mind you, I was pregnant, right? Like I was obsessed with it in a lazy way where any class that I took, I made sure that my final paper was I will find something about it that has to do with maternal health. So even if it's accounting, my final paper would be about something about maternal health. So I was taking a class called social entrepreneurship. And one of my professor, we had to do a pitch, and I did a pitch because, again, remember, I was very lazy. Everything was about maternal health. So we did a pitch, and he gave me a grade that I didn't want because my thought was I was going to graduate, and then I was going to do a fellowship and start my journey to become a healthcare administrator. But so in order to get into fellowship, you need good grades. So he gave me a grade that I didn't want, and I was like looking for him all over campus. Like I really need a good grade. So he called me, and he was like, "Actually, the reason why I'm calling you is not to give you a better grade, but the reason why I'm calling you is for you to think outside of what you're doing right now. The trajectory you're going on, I want you to think about a life in entrepreneurship." I was like, "No, we're in debt with student loan. When I get out of here, I need to start making money, and that's the path that I'm going to." And I was like, I know the data. Like, how am I going to do it? I don't really know anything about entrepreneurship. No, thank you. But he still didn't increase my grade. So then I took another class with him. And after that class, again, whatever I did was on maternal health. And so what he did was after the class, he took me to coffee, and he said to me, "Would you consider doing this full time? I don't have money, but I could start to connect you and at least test out your ideas. And because I think you should do this." And, because of him, I thought about it when I graduated, and I talked to my husband. In between these classes, I've had my kid. And I really felt like I owned my journey, and I had the outcomes that I wanted. And it was an outcome not only after the initial being scared, it was a journey that was filled with joy, that I really did it in the way that I wanted to do it. And I felt like not a lot of women know about how to navigate the healthcare system, and when all those feelings bubble up. So I was like, well, I have the answer that worked for me. So now fast forward, I have my child, and what am I waiting for? It didn't feel like there's a savior that's coming to save us, Black women. So, and my professor keeping encouraging me. Actually, before I graduated, took me to a hospital where I was talking to the CEOs of the hospital, and he was telling them about my idea and how proud he was of me. So of course, I'm thinking he totally set me up. Sometimes when I'm having a rough day, I'm like, man, this guy set me up. But that's where our journey started. And fast forward now, we have a app in the community, and a few weeks ago, somebody sent me an email and just said that, I use all this other app. I'm a third-time mom. I use all this other app, but when I get that weekly pregnancy moment, written by a midwife from Wolomi on Sundays, I really feel special. And that's what it is for us, like having us feel special. Our pregnancy journey, bringing life into this world, is a special thing, and we deserve the right to feel good about it. And to when you get that pregnancy, when you see that you're pregnant, the first thing in your mind shouldn't be, oh my God, am I going to die? It should be, wow, I get to enjoy this journey and have the greatest outcome possible. And so that's really where our journey started. And thanks to Dr. Greg, if you're watching this, Greg Downey. So you guys to go after him.
Awesome. So a few things. One, thank you for focusing on this problem, the work that you're doing. Two, as a former, as someone who launched his first tech startup while in graduate school at Florida University, by the way, I truly appreciate. I can truly appreciate it. And again, thank you for naming the professor, because that's a true ally right there. That is a true ally. And also, I think the integration of your work into your schoolwork is being efficient. I usually do it as well. So good stuff. Okay, so if people want to do a little bit of business with you, they want to use the product and things of that nature, how can they get in contact with you at the company?
Yes, they could find us. They could email me at layo@wolomi.com. So Wolomi is WOLOMI. Layo@wolomi.com. We are also on Instagram at Wolomi app.
There it is. And let's take it over to Florida University as well. A little bit another transition. Let's go to Courtney for her origin story. Courtney, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Joey. Hearing everyone's story is inspiring for sure. And as I was thinking of my origin story, I had one part where I was going to start it, but given Joey shouting out the illustrious Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, that is a key part of my journey. So back in FAMU, I always aspired and thought I was going to be in the sports journalism world. I was locked in from my freshman year, series of internships in television, landed my dream internship after my junior year at ESPN. It had an amazing time. It was easily the best experience I'd ever had. But at the conclusion of it said, I don't want to go to TV anymore. So, went into a pivot. I said, but I want to apply everything I've learned and what I know about this space and figure out what I'm going to do next. And so I went over to Florida State University down the road and got a master's in integrated marketing communications, which opened the door for me to go into the corporate communications world. Without going into all the details, I spent a decade working in corporate communications, almost always in a very integrated marketing communications role, which was in perfect alignment with what my degree was. When I think about, the role of entrepreneurship and where I saw that in my journey, friends of mine always knew I said I wanted to have my own business. But, for those who have made the leap from corporate America, when you're there and you're getting promoted and you're getting incentives and bonuses, it's easy to get a little complacent. And so I got comfortable. I was comfortable, but not happy. And I eventually got to a point back in 2016. I decided in my, boredom or whatever you want to call it, living in Charlotte, that it sounded like a good idea to go to school again. I went and was in the process of getting my MBA at UCLA. So I was commuting from Charlotte to LA for 3 years. And so my last year, I decided finally to take the leap from corporate America. And I think I made some excuse of I needed to focus on school because I had failed a class. That's an important part of the journey. I had failed a finance class because that was not my ministry, if you will. And so I used that as an opportunity. I took that leap into entrepreneurship then, and that was a tough leap for me to make. As I said, you get comfortable. It feels like you're taking a big risk. What's going to happen? How am I going to sustain myself? And but fortunately, my land wasn't too hard because I had a client. I had a client from a previous employer, previous head of communications, hired me to be a consultant for a long-term project. It was almost a year-long project, and really, covered all the bills. It was quite comfortable. And so in that, I started building this business. That was the start of my entrepreneurial journey. And I would continue getting clients who would hire me to essentially do everything I had done in my corporate career. And after several years of doing that, lots of lessons learned, I built what, by some people's standards, I guess from a revenue standpoint, was a solid business. I started to kind of think about what's next. Now, what also happened was that I had a baby back in 2020. I had a baby. We were in lockdown. And so, again, me in moments where I feel like I'm maybe a little bit bored. And I don't even know if that's the right word when you have a baby in a pandemic, but I was like, I think I need to do something different because people would call me to work projects, clients would, and I would often say, I'm not working right now. And the next question was always, well, do you know someone else? And I didn't know anybody else. So I would just kind of ghost them and trust that they figured it out. And then finally, I kind of said, well, how about I create this solution that people in my space and industry have been seeking, somewhere where I can go to find people to fill these gaps on our team, because a reality in the marketing and communications worlds are that we're often really under-resourced. If you're an entrepreneur, you probably don't have, as you're trying to select where you put your investments, I don't have time to hire, I don't have the resources necessarily to hire a full-time marketing person. If I'm in the corporate world, I probably have a super lean communications or marketing team. So we're outsourcing a lot. And then in the freelance world, because we work in such a creative space, I want to be thinking of writing compelling, brilliant pieces of communication, whether it's a press release or a video script or a speech or whatever it is, and not getting, not doing things like reading master service agreements and working through contracts and chasing down my payments and all of those other, pain points. And so I created Uplevel to solve that problem, those problems on both sides of the marketplace that we serve. Everything on my journey has been, Goodie Nation, Joey always talks about the importance of relationships. So when I talk about my origin story and I talk about my clients as a consultant, so many of them came from relationships I had in my corporate life, whether they were people I worked for or referrals. When I started Uplevel, so much of it was about, one, helping others to create those relationships and those connections, but also two, relying on the relationships I had to help me bring it to life. I created it on a no-code solution, a completely non-technical person, but my partner was building an app himself, and I kind of followed essentially the process that he was following to get it off the ground. Was blessed to have get a small early investment that helped me really bring that forward. But as I went on that journey, again, a non-technical founder, I had to tap people. And I think Candice said this earlier too. Who are people I know? I'm having some problems building a financial model or deciding my pricing. Called up a best friend who works in finance. She's now, on the team. Same on the technical side. I kept hitting up this childhood friend, asking him the most basic technical questions to help fill a gap. And then he ended up being part of the team. And that has continued with others who have joined. And so, that relationship thing, it can't be emphasized enough. It's been so key in our journey. It's so key in the journey going forward. The relationships that I've been able to build. I also was accepted into the Google for Startups Founders Academy, connecting with other founders there through the Goodie Nation community as a result of this Black Founders Fund award. Just continuing to have to lean into relationships in order to build this business that we know can bring so much value to the world and to people. Specifically, when I say the world, I'm talking about people who work in this marketing communication space in this world, who, again, are often underappreciated, but a key part of any company's success. And I want to do my part to help everyone be successful in this space too.
Awesome. Good story. Also, we had Courtney and I had a long-standing like inside joke of being cousins and stuff like that. We're actually not related,
Yeah.
but at least I know her. But
little known secret to all the FAMU people who thought we were cousins.
There it is. Okay, so if you're a marketing communication professional or you're looking to hire on, how can they get in contact with you?
Yep. So I am still you can find Uplevel on all your Facebooks, your Instagrams, LinkedIn. I am old fashioned. Send me an email. You can email me at Courtney@uplevelcommunications.io. And that's communication with an S at the end. Or LinkedIn is also a great way to connect with me. So you could shoot me a message there and connect for sure.
There it is. Cool. Okay. So we have the final story, the final founder, but certainly not the least. Want to kick it over to Yinka for his story. Take it away, good sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. For my origin story, it really starts from being from a family of healthcare providers, from my dad to my brother as well. And I obviously couldn't shake it off. So I actually married a physician my wife is actually a physician as well. So for me, I've always thought about how can I help people? Being a healthcare provider was top of mind for me. So I ended up actually becoming a pharmacist, graduated from VCU, not Florida A&M, even though I like to be, but doctor of pharmacy from VCU. I worked in both outpatient and inpatient settings. I built pharmacies for health systems for a living. Then I went on to go back to school and decided to get my MBA. And while I was a year from my MBA, I wanted to marry the best of both worlds. How can I help people and also provide some sort of return and generate return for investors? So we started out just trying to be the back-end infrastructure with clinical pharmacy services in the addiction space. And during that process, as we came out of stealth mode, we realized that there was a much larger opportunity out there. And it really stems from when I started working on my dad's prescription and realized that it was paying $70 a month for a medication he could have been paying $10 a month for. So it became very real. You hear about the lack of price transparency in pharmacy. For me, it hit home for me, and what became very real when I looked at his prescription. And what really happened there is that his provider wasn't aware of the option, and neither was he. And what's going on with the lack of price transparency is that physicians are not able to put patient socioeconomic status into consideration when they're prescribing medications. As a result, you're having outcomes that are not ideal, especially for low-income and underserved communities, where about 30% of medications are not picked up, leading to about $300 billion in direct medical costs to the healthcare system. So at that point, I knew that there was an opportunity there. We needed to do something about it. And then we saw the massive growth of the digital health space, especially the telehealth providers. And it was at that moment we felt that if we can be licensed in all 50 states to give them that infrastructure to impact any communities across the United States, we could actually scale our efforts very quickly. So I started working with some of their early stage telehealth providers that are part of the Techstar network. So I'm also part of Techstar Boston. And being part of that ecosystem, so I definitely know what it is, what it's like to lean on communities and lean on an ecosystem. I'm so pretty excited to be part of Goodie Nation, so Google for Startup, and be able to leverage that community and continue to make impact in our communities. So we started out with just telehealth providers being a backend infrastructure. And then over time, as we became more public, other digital health companies, so more direct to consumer, or those working in other healthcare spaces that wanted to use our infrastructure for pharmacy services, started reaching out to us. And that's how we really started. So our goal here is our mission is to improve access to affordable medication to patients, solve that problem of price transparency so it can put some control back in the hands of providers when they're selecting medication for patients, and be that back-end infrastructure. We joke around and say we're the Stripe of pharmacy to allow just about anyone who plugs into our API or webhook to be able to run their own pharmacy services. So we're super excited to be part of this. We're super excited for the growth that's ahead, and definitely thank you for having us.
So listen, I think you would have fit in well at FAMU, man, the pharmacy school. Like much respect for pharmacists. I don't know about Courtney's experience, but I remember the first week of school, like actually the week before class started, you get there, you party, you meet a bunch of people. People were like, yeah, I'm going to pharmacy or a pharmacy major. And then you will not see them for the rest of the actual, like, next thing you know, they're walking across that stage, right? You just don't see it. You do not see them because they were just grinding.
You know rock. Yes.
Yeah, so good stuff, man. Good stuff. Okay. How can people get in contact?
I'm loving the family though. Oh, absolutely. Just go to our website, healthhavenrx.com, where you can reach out to me, Yinka at healthhavenrx.com. Be more than happy to respond as well.
There it is. Good stuff. Okay. So you all, you got a treat. I told you all that, to expect a treat, and you got a treat. Some awesome stories today for some awesome founders, work-life integration. I think, I'm loving that title and weaving it into all these stories and stuff like that. I mean, again, you all are living your dream, living, who you are. You're expressing it through your companies. And so for the folks out there watching today, I got one thing for you: support. Support's a verb. It means action. And Dr. Key Hallman from Village Market says it all the time. So here's a few ways that you can support. And again, hopefully you've seen a bit of yourself within their stories, right? And then you've started to develop a relationship, even though they don't know you. You start to develop a relationship. So let's make that relationship real and reach out. So here's a few ways you can support. One, you can become either a customer or a user. Two, you can provide capital to them. Maybe you're an investor. Or three, you can amplify their story. Maybe you tell stories yourself, or you simply just hit the share button on social media or retweet or whatever it is, right? Those are just three kind of categories in which you can help. The easy part is just simply to share, but we actually want to take the next step and do a little bit more. But if you can't do the major stuff, I believe that someone in your network can. Again, they can become a user or a customer. They can provide capital, or they can help to write a story, right? Those are the three main ways in which you can support. And so they've given you their contact information. If you want a little bit more information about them, you can visit the link at the bottom of this page. It'll pull up a page where you'll see their card. You can click on the card. You can pull up their warm intro link and click that button to get more of a direct connection to them. And by doing this, you'll help them realize their potential. Now, if you can spend 30 minutes trying to figure out if you can help them, and or spend additional 30 minutes figuring out who in your network can help, you'll start to close the relationship gap a little bit, right? You do that over 6 months, it turns from action into habit. As you bring in more people from your community to do so, you start to develop a group behavior around supporting these awesome founders. After a while, it turns into a culture of supporting diverse founders and social entrepreneurs. That's what we call at Goodie Nation being intentionally good. So you got to be intentional about closing the relationship gap for these awesome founders from whom you just heard these awesome origin stories, right? That's the ask I have for you all, simply to support. So this has been an awesome edition of Prequel Origin Stories and Inflection Points with some awesome founders, some dope founders from the recent Google for Startups Black Founders Fund 3. I am Joey Womack, founder, CEO. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Outwork yesterday and stay magnetic. Peace out.